I, male 31, met my ex-girlfriend, female 29, on a dating app about 7 years ago. She had a son, 6 months at the time. She was with multiple guys and ended up pregnant. Still doesn't know who's the bio father, but it wasn't that much of an issue since she seemed like a great person and we had a lot in common. After a few weeks of chatting and talking online, we went on a first date and had a great time. After that we just started hanging out whenever she could, and shortly after she introduced me to her son. Few months into our relationship, we moved in together to save money since both of us were renting at the time. I started helping take care of her child whenever I could and we really grew fond of each other. He even started calling me Papa and we just went along with it since my GF didn't mind. Almost 5 years into our relationship, she told me that she wants to break up because I became boring and not an active person like I used to be. We used to go on hikes and travel around the country on weekends, and that I worked too much. It was a rough time after that and I had a hard time accepting it, although not as hard as having to explain a 5-year-old that he'll no longer be seeing his pop. But I managed to get over it after a few months, found a better job that allowed me to work remotely and had a lot of free time, so I managed to explore a few other countries. A few days ago, I got a call from my ex. She said that she is sick and is in hospital. They removed one of her breasts, but recently they found a tumor in her other breast and will need to have it removed as well. She is scared that she might die if it doesn't work out and asked me if I would be willing to become her son's legal guardian and adopt him, since she has no one else to ask. I live a different lifestyle now, travel a lot and invest in myself, so I told her that I can't do that. She told me that her son misses me and would love to see me, but I said no again and she started crying and calling me names before cutting the call. I talked to my sister and parents about this and they told me that it's a fricked up thing to refuse it after all those years spent with them. I feel like trash now. Am I an idiot for not wanting to adopt my dying ex-girlfriend's child? Update. After I made the original post, I've spent a bit thinking. I reached out to her friend, trying to get some info about. She didn't want to say much and told me that I should come over. I ended up going. Ex and her friend were there, kiddo was at school. Honestly felt completely different than I was expecting to feel. Anyways, she had the other breast removed. Quickly found out that it spread out and she was just starting with her therapy. Ex suggested that we stay until the kid returns. I remember what you guys said, but I just couldn't do it. I stayed, because I just wanted to see. I guess some of you were right about him remembering me. Or not. Walks in, says hi, and disappears somewhere, I guess his room. Walks back after a minute and starts staring at me. Papa, Papa, and runs at me. Ex starts crying out loud, and I tear up, barely holding myself from crying. I don't know if it's because of her crying or because of kiddo remembering. It was a great day. To cut it short, I started visiting her 2-3 times a week. But sadly, things were starting to get worse. Seeing her getting weaker and weaker, I decided to go through with the guardianship. Hired a lawyer, did tons of paperwork, interviews, investigation, and finally found the bio dad. Ex narrowed a list of people, and even without the DNA test, you could see from miles away that kiddo was a mini version of one of the guys. Both ex's mom and bio dad signed the consent and waiver, but even if they didn't, they probably wouldn't have a chance to make a difference. After 2 months, the judge made his decision and I finally became a legal guardian. Sadly, my ex passed away roughly 3 months ago, after which I started the adoption process that still goes on. Had 2 court hearings so far, and another one will be in about 2 weeks. So far, things went well, so I'm hoping for the best. No idiots here. You shouldn't feel guilty for refusing. It's also understandable why she chose you. And honestly, who can blame her for trying to make sure her son stays with someone she can trust, and someone that the kid loves? Her calling you names was wrong, but I guess she's under so much stress right now that her fear and frustration have probably taken over for that moment. Not an idiot, but I would encourage you to really think about this, and not instantly rule it out. It's not fricked up for you to refuse it, but if it's true that she has no one else to ask, then you might be saving this child, who is getting dealt a really shot hand in all of this, from a really shot life. At least strongly consider it, if you have the means. But ultimately, if you decide against it, it isn't on you. Let me know in the comments what you think he should have done. Now, for the next story. Am I an idiot for telling my sister not to boss me around in my own home after she insisted on telling me what to do? I'm 42, the eldest of 8 siblings. This concerns my youngest sister Alina, 23. My husband and I have 2 kids, 16 and 13. Alina is staying with us for 4 months because she started at a new college, and she needs some time to sort out housing. She's been here for a couple of weeks so far. Last night she made dinner for everyone. She said she wanted to. The way dinner usually works in my household is I dish up the food, then my kids take it to their rooms to eat. We obviously have family dinner too. But this is just more convenient for all of us as we don't have to spend time setting the table every day, and we can eat at different times if needed. Also, by different times I don't mean someone eats at 7 p.m. and someone eats at 3 a.m. Just a small gap. I know this isn't for everyone and that's okay, but this is what works for our family. Alina knows this. So last night she made fried dumplings, orange chicken, fried rice and chocolate cake for dessert. I went into the kitchen to thank her and saw her setting the table. I told Alina she doesn't need to do that and we'll take food from the pot. My 13-year-old started saying she was hungry, so I went to get food since everything was done. But Alina stopped me and said to wait a few minutes and we'll eat together. Again, I told her that's not how it really works here. One of my kids is hungry now, but my 16-year-old usually eats a bit later. Alina then said she was going to serve the dumplings first, then chicken and rice and cake after. I repeated to her, again, we can get the main food at once, cake later, and if anyone wants seconds we'll come and get it. It's fine, no need to set the table. She looked upset and said she wants to have a nice dinner together and involve the kids. I had enough at this point, so I told her I know my kids and family. She doesn't have to dictate what we do in my home. My husband saw what was going on and told Alina thanks, but we know how to serve ourselves. Alina eventually understood, but she was acting sulky and giving me the cold shoulder this morning. Am I an idiot? Update. It's pretty early in the morning, but I'm up and wanted to post an update. Couldn't reply to all the comments, but I'll cover some questions people were asking here. Firstly, thanks to the comments who were kind and tried to understand both mine and Alina's side, and I can see we had some communication issues. 1. I knew even before I posted a lot of people would gloss over the question I was even asking and immediately jump on we have our dinners separately. As I mentioned, I know this doesn't work for everyone. That's fine. This is what works for us. I don't neglect my kids. They're happy, healthy teens. 2. A lot of comments about what we do at restaurants. We eat at restaurants how everyone eats at restaurants. My home isn't a restaurant, so we eat here how we eat at home. 3. Some comments saying Alina wanted to make dinner because she was feeling lonely and we made her feel lonelier. No, she said she wanted to make a meal because she had some news to share. I never ask her to make food, do any chores, etc. She's free to do as she wishes. I did have a chat with Alina and we appreciated the meal, but she's been here for a few weeks already and knows very well what our eating routine is like. I did apologize for a misunderstanding on my part, but having dinner exactly the way she wants isn't the only form of appreciation. We all told her the food was delicious, because it was, and that should be enough. She seemed to understand and said okay, but was still a little quiet around us, so I think I'll let her cool off for a bit. You're an idiot and your update makes it even worse. She literally asked you in advance, could she cook for you guys and set a date in advance to have time together to share the news? One dinner, one meal. She's not dictating your lives, but you shut down hers. I hope the meal was wonderful, Alina, and that at least one person was with you for your news. You're an idiot. You still don't understand that what you did was incredibly rude. Your sister made you all a 3-course meal and wanted to sit down with all of you, and you couldn't give her that because it's so important to you to do things your way without any consideration for your sister. And since your sister has been at your place for a couple of weeks and has seen how you eat like solitary cave people, she probably wanted to have a nice social meal with the people she lives with for once, like a sane person. Now, for the next story. Am I an idiot for not taking in my son and his family? My ex-wife and I adopted our son when he was 6. We had been his foster parents for 3 years and we wanted to make it official. He met his wife when he was 18. She knew he was adopted and she thought it would be good for him to get to know his biological parents. Over the course of the next few years, my ex-wife and I were slowly pushed out of his life. When they got married, we only received a wedding invitation. We were not part of the wedding party. His biological parents and their spouses sat at the family table. We have not had the opportunity to meet our granddaughter and she is nearly 3 years old now. I am sad about the situation, but my ex-wife is heartbroken. I hate to see her hurt when all she did was try to be a good mom. I can honestly say that I am not a fan of my daughter-in-law and I wish she had never come into our lives. Recently they have run into financial problems and they lost their home. My son's job is in the city we live in and his biological parents and his in-laws all live in other cities. He called my ex-wife to ask if they could stay with us while they got back on their feet. I said no. My ex-wife wants to, but I refuse to be used. He has been distancing himself from us for 9 years now. The only reason he called was because he is desperate. I don't think I owe him anything. I offered to pay for whatever it costs for him to move his family to the cities where his real family is. His wife called me to scream at me. She says that I am abandoning my son and grandchild. I said that since he didn't think of us as parents when they got married and had a child, then they should not think of it that way now. Then I blocked her. My ex-wife says that I'm being too harsh and that I need to forgive them. But here's the thing. I don't think it will change anything. All that will happen is that they live in our home and then they abandon my wife again as soon as the chance presents itself. Edit. He was removed from his biological parents because they were very young and it wasn't a good situation. If they had been older or more stable, I'm sure they would not have severed their parental rights. Edit. Sorry, I edited my post to make it more clear. His mom and I are divorced. She is in an extended care facility and he cannot live there. I kept our home. I am still friends with her and we see the kids together as a family. I still care for her deeply, but her condition wasn't something she wanted me to deal with. Our son didn't even know we had separated when he called her. Not an idiot. Such a tough situation though, and I see why your wife deeply wants them in her life. It would be devastating to have a child. They push you out and you never get to meet your granddaughter. I think you guys would be much better off with protecting yourselves from any future pain he can cause you with leaving again. Not an idiot. He has made clear how he feels over the last 9 years. You haven't even met his child. If he didn't need money or a place to live, I highly doubt you would have heard from them at all. Time for his bio family to cough up the money to help him. Because you know that as soon as he doesn't need your home and money, you won't hear from him again. Now, for the last story. Am I an idiot for calling out my wife's adult son to stop wearing crazy revealing clothes in front of my family? I'm writing this for me and my family. Me, male 38, and my wife Alice, a female 37, have been together for 7 years. We have a couple of twins, both male 6, and we're a very happy family. My wife also has a son, Luke, 19M. He got an athletic college scholarship, but he dropped out and he's currently pursuing a career as a musician in another city. He stays in our home whenever he visits for holidays or vacations. Luke's very tall, so it is difficult for him to go unnoticed. When I say revealing clothes, I mean that he wears thigh shorts, so tight you can see his boxers, crop tops, women's blouses. I mean, it is very distracting as his pubes and trail are very visible. One time I catched him wearing a skirt while watching TV in our living room. I gave him a disapproving look and all he said to me was, "Man, you know we're Irish, don't you?" Which is a crazy thing to say, and I think kilts are from Scotland anyway, but that's not the point. In another instance, he would sit for dinner with a pearl necklace, eyeshadow, and a fur coat. For example, my mother and sisters and their kids visited us for CHR steamas, and they agreed that it was odd to have a guy dressing like that around the house, especially in front of so many women. A few weeks ago after Christmas dinner, I talked to Luke and voiced my concerns, and he was like, "Okay Cap, no problem," and "Okay sir." "Yes sir." Copy that sir, clearly mocking me. I must admit I got angry and I yelled at him. I went to vent out my frustration with my wife. However, she didn't back me up or take me seriously, even when I raised my concerns about our boys seeing his older brother acting a fool. I checked her phone and she was texting with Luke, again just joking and making fun of me. Luke texted her something like, "Not your husband, body shaming me, lol, I didn't get the Hugo Boss dress code memo." And my wife replied, "Follow the dress code, young man, or you'll be executed at midnight. I don't make the rules, babe, I'm sorry, 20. I got so mad I gave both of them the silent treatment for the rest of the holidays. Alice tried to talk me down by saying that he's not wearing anything around the house he wouldn't be wearing in public, so our boys would be seeing that style sooner or later whether we liked it or not. She was condescending, like she was talking to an angry old man from another century. I don't know. I don't feel like I was asking something unreasonable, and I felt they were bullying me for expressing a reasonable concern about what my twins and my family are seeing in their own home. Our home, my home. And at the end of the day, it is my house, my rules too. Am I an idiot? You're an idiot. We know because you said this was about him dressing revealingly. But you still had a problem when he was covered up at Christmas dinner, when a pearl necklace is totally appropriate, I might add. Your problem is not that it's revealing, but that it's gender non-conforming. You're an idiot. You looked at your wife's private messages to her son. That's a disgusting violation. This is very obviously about control. You need to stop trying to bend your family to your will. It's wildly unreasonable. I, female 31, am a single woman who lives alone and doesn't intend on having children of my own. I'm not wealthy, but I make enough to very comfortably support myself. I work from home and have a flexible schedule, so I have a lot of time to live how I want. I have a complicated friendship with Emma, female 27, because I love her but she frustrates me. Emma is a single mom with 2 children, Caleb, male 7, and Grace, female 4. Grace has had serious lung problems since birth and contracted RSV and OCT and has been hospitalized since. It's been a horrible time and she is finally more stable now but not well. Early into Grace's hospitalization, Emma asked me to take Caleb. Emma lives with her parents who were not willing to watch him full-time, so I happily took him in and temporarily converted my den into a room for him. He's a sweet kid who's been through a lot and I'm happy to give him some quiet space. I've never taken care of a child long-term before and my life was not set up for kids, but he has adjusted well. I love cooking and collecting special ingredients to use and trying new recipes, and Caleb just rolled with it. I grow microgreens at home and he's loved watching the process and incorporating them into his food. He hasn't liked everything, but he's always willing to try. I like pour painting and we've been having craft nights where he gets to experiment with his own canvases, which he's enjoyed. We also take trips to museums and shows. I've kept up my regular life and luckily, he was thrilled to come along. I would have struggled to come up with a more kid-specific lifestyle. Emma usually only calls weekly and sees him maybe once or twice a month, which bothers me, but the Grace situation must be draining. So I try not to hold against her, but it does mean that Emma really has no idea what we do day to day. Yesterday was Christmas and he was going home to visit his mom. I sent him with his gifts, shoes and books, plus gifts for his mom and sister. His grandma dropped him off last night and didn't really say much to me, which was weird. Caleb looked sad and didn't want to talk about it, so I let it be and we watched a movie before bed. Late that night, I got a call from Emma screaming at me for ruining her relationship with her son. I guess it didn't go super well and she feels that Caleb is now spoiled because of me and that what she can provide is no longer good enough for him. He wants to make kimchi with her. He wants to get a cat. He didn't want the mac and cheese his mom made for him. When Emma gave him a new coloring book, he told her about the paintings instead and asked her to get the supplies so they could do it together when he went back home. He asked why she never takes him to museums. I was so thrown off by the screaming that I yelled back and told her I wasn't going to downgrade my life to suit her expectations, and she hung up on me. I feel guilty now. I really hadn't considered how I could be affecting Caleb's tastes long term, but I think she should have thought about that herself. She knows how I live. Update. This isn't the happiest update, but not the worst either. It's also incomplete, but enough people asked me for an update that I felt I owed it to you guys. Emma has disappeared. I have not heard from her since the phone call, and she stopped showing up to the hospital around the first week of January. Grace has been released from the hospital into the care of Emma's parents. She is still very weak and lethargic, but she's recovering as well as she can. I bring Caleb to his grandparents to see her several times a week, and it's just so wonderful to see how happy they are to see each other. I can barely hold in the tears. This has been so difficult for both of them, and I love that they have each other. There's been a never-ending series of meetings, visits, and phone calls with CPS, boards, and family lawyers these past 2 weeks, which has been a lot. There are complications to Caleb being placed with me that I had not considered before, and almost resulted in him being placed with his paternal grandparents, but ultimately it was decided it was best for Caleb to stay where he was, in his same school and near his sister. Barring any major complications, I will officially be granted temporary custody early next week and very likely guardianship this summer. Grace will remain with her grandparents for at least the time being, but me taking her once she's stronger has been suggested. It's uncertain if or when this could happen, but it's a possibility. It would be best for them to be together. Emma's social media is still active. We can see her opening our messages, but we do not know where she is or who she is with. I just hope she stays alive. I don't think I can ever forgive her for this, but her children still need her to be okay. Caleb will turn 8 at the end of this month. He wants to go ice skating. I've never gone myself, but I'm so excited to make a fool of myself with him. I just want to give him the best birthday I can. He deserves so much. If anyone has any cool ideas, I'd love to hear them. It's not a happy ending. It's not an ending at all, but I don't see myself returning here, so it's the best ending I have for you. Not an idiot. I was in tears reading your first post, and I'm in tears now. You are a wonderful human being, and I'm so happy these kids are lucky enough to have you in their lives. They're going through, and will continue to go through, some really tough emotions, but my gosh, you are a rock star with a really amazing mindset. I'm so glad you're sharing yourself and your life with these kids. The opportunity you've given them is worth so much. I don't even know you, but I'm so proud of you and crying the happiest tears for you. Not an idiot. How deeply sad for all involved. I'm so sorry, for you and especially for Emma's family. They're very lucky to have your friendship and support, though I wish they didn't need it so desperately. I hope Emma eventually gets the help she needs, for her sake and her children's. In the meantime, all the best to you and her family, and I hope Caleb's birthday gives you all some wonderful memories. Let me know if she actually spoiled Caleb. Now, you won't want to miss the next story. Am I an idiot for not stating why certain members of my family weren't invited to my wedding? Recently, my boyfriend, male 25, and I, male 24, of 4 years recently got married. I come from a very traditional, if not stereotypical, Latino family. The gossip is deeply ingrained in the whole family. I have about 7 uncles, one of which is also bisexual like myself. He got married some time ago, and when he sent out invites to the whole family, a large majority of them declined because of religious reasons, which really saddened him. I kept this in mind when it came time to send out my invitations, and those particular family members did not get one. About a week ago, my husband and I went to my dad's house for the annual family reunion. I really didn't want to go because I knew in the back of my mind this absolutely was going to get around, despite the lack of posting on any social media, but my dad and mom really wanted me there. They are very supportive and the be loud and proud type people, and I love them to death for it. Even if it's a little obnoxious, the spirit is what counts though, right? I voiced this concern to my dad, and he was very insistent that if the shot goes south, he'll be right there to laugh about it. The entire time, my husband and I are getting some intense side-eye. The family that didn't attend didn't even try to hide the fact that they were whispering about my husband and I. About 2 hours later, as I am 6 or so whiskeys in, the straight uncles took initiative and decided to ambush me and ask why they weren't invited. I was polite and reminded them that they turned down the bi uncle's wedding for religious reasons. They responded with at least wanting to be thought about and being invited. I told them that I did think about them and decided they weren't worth the $.57 postage to be told they weren't going to attend for bigoted reasons. It would be understating to say that their reaction was less than pleased. Shot hit multiple fans. My uncles went off for being compared to a postage stamp. My dad was eating it up. My mom was a little pissy at me for causing a disturbance in her house though, which unfortunately made me question everything at that moment. My grandma was giving me the judges in Spanish look. My husband kind of grabbed my hand and said, "Let's get out of here before you piss off any more people," in a laughing manner, and proceeded to drive us home. My dad sent me a "That's my boy. Good on you for standing up for yourself" text. My mom was still less than thrilled about how things went down. My bi uncle sent me a text saying thank you for standing up for me, but now my relationship with my brothers is strained to hell and I didn't want that. My phone and social media have been blowing the hell up ever since then, but I'm kind of ignoring it though. But I do feel bad for my uncle because he just wants to be close with all his brothers and not just one. So Reddit, am I an idiot for how things went down? As I guessed, the family did indeed find this. Between 7 uncles, one of my cousins likely showed them the post I originally made. It was obviously not received well lol. Anyways, I'm just going to go down and list order of things or events that have happened. My dad. First off, he wanted me to tell all of you that he loved all the support and that he wishes to dad all of you as well. His words, "It took 2 of us to make you, and I gotta say I love my work. Any parent that doesn't should never have tried." My mom. She had called me asking why I brought up the events of my uncle's wedding. I told her that I was simply having a good time with my husband and everyone else. That my uncles made the conscious decision to want to start a problem. She got mad and said she just wanted to have a good party. I told her that I didn't want to be attacked for my sexuality and not inviting blatant bigots to my wedding, but that I'm glad her party meant more to her. We got into a shouting match over the phone. I told my dad what happened and he's livid with her. They got into a fight and now she's staying at my grandma's. I've apologized profusely to my dad, but he's telling me to let it go and that I've done nothing wrong. Above all else, this is what hurts the most. She was always so very supportive of me, and it feels like a massive bombshell was just dropped out of nowhere. My bi-uncle. Unbeknownst to me, my husband invited him over so he and I could have a heart-to-heart about what happened. It annoyed me a little bit, but I am glad he invited him over. We talked about the post I made and he saw everyone's comments. According to him, it kind of opened him up to the shot he was just ignoring so he could pretend to have a close bond with all his brothers. At the same time though, he's still not sure what to do from here. We talked for a few hours and had a good cry and hug about it. Everything is good on that front and it makes me happy. He'll be seeking therapy to help him deal with his feelings on this. The other uncles, obviously they are livid with me. They couldn't believe that I posted something like that, blasting them on the internet. They said they didn't like being painted the way I posted them. So I just straight up asked them if they thought my bi-uncle was going to hell because of his marriage. To my shock, they had no problem saying yes. They didn't even try to dance around it. In the end, I told them that if they didn't want to be painted as bigots, to lose the religious bigoted act. Plain and simple. My husband has been non-stop trying to comfort me after the shouting match with my mom. He can see the immense pain I'm in. I love that man very much though. He took me out for steak and old fashions the other night to help get me relaxed. That's all folks. Thank you, not an idiot. It's your wedding, and anyone who questions who was or wasn't invited can STF you. The whole point of that day is committing yourself to that one other person. If your family is causing issues over this now, it's not going to change after the ceremony. Not an idiot. As a fellow gay, I think you handled everything brilliantly. I'm sorry your mom is upset with you for standing your ground, but it sounds like she might have some internalized homophobia that needs to be addressed. Your dad sounds like a stand-up gent. Best of luck to you going forward. Now, for the next story. Am I an idiot for telling my wife it was a huge mistake to stay at a baby shower? So my wife, female 26, and I, male 28, have been married for a year and began trying to conceive in September. No luck so far, but the doctor did say at our first appointment that it typically takes close to a year for most couples to conceive. She's been telling people that she's infertile, which isn't true. The doctor said she isn't. My wife and I went to my work Christmas party in mid-December, where my wife met my coworker's wife, let's call her Mary, and they took a liking to each other. Mary was pregnant and invited my wife to her baby shower, which was yesterday, and my wife sounded excited to go. I asked her when we were alone if she thinks she'll be fine. I know my wife and I know what typically bothers her. I knew she wouldn't bask in happiness over someone else's pregnancy, so I urged her to think it through. She said she's fine and she was excited, so she went. The baby shower was yesterday. About 40 minutes in, she calls me and asks me to come. I was at a cafe nearby because I knew she wouldn't stay long. I find her at the entrance of the house crying and a bunch of women consoling her. When she saw me, she came to me and pulled me to the garden to talk. She said she was dancing and looked at Mary's pregnant belly and couldn't take it anymore, started crying and ran out. All of Mary's friends followed her out to console her. I consoled her myself and said, "Okay, let's go, babe. Where do you want to go? We can go for a drive so you can feel better." She looked at me weird and asked why she would leave. I asked why she would stay. She said she feels better now and can go have a good time. I sighed and said, "Babe, you know that's not going to happen. And I doubt the attention will be on Mary after this, and that's not great. It's her baby shower and she deserves to be celebrated. I can't see how people are going to shift their focus from consoling you to celebrating her if you're still there." She rolled her eyes at me and said she was going back in and that I could leave. 3 hours later, the party was nearing its end, so I went back to pick her up. My coworker and I stepped into the house, and lo and behold, everyone was sitting in a circle with my wife being the center of attention. Coworker looked for his wife and she wasn't there at all. He called her and she said she had left ages ago. My wife and I entered the car and I first asked her how she was feeling and we spoke about it for a few minutes. I then asked her what happened and why Mary left. She said, "Oh crap, Mary, I forgot to say bye to her." I told her Mary left ages ago. I then said, "I know you're going through a hard time, but why on earth would you and her friends do this? If they consoled you for a few minutes, that's fine, but the entire party? We really should have left earlier." She looked at me so offended and said, "Are you Mary's husband or mine?" We stared at each other for a while and just drove home in silence. I told her I wanted to talk to her this morning to sort things out, but she ignored me and left the house. Update. So I texted my coworker, let's call him Frank, and asked if we could talk, so we met up during our lunch break. I apologized for everything that happened. He kept telling me it's fine and being so nice about it, and that kind of made me feel worse. He said he had booked Mary a ticket back home for a week and that her sisters and friends were going to surprise her with another baby shower. I asked if he'd mind my wife and I paying the expenses of the baby shower they were going to throw. He laughed and said no way, but that he appreciated it. We went back and forth a bit, but he eventually said he'd ask his sister-in-law how much she spends on everything and then would let me know and we can pay half of it. I spoke to my wife when I got home from work. She apologized for ignoring me and said she doesn't know why she behaves like this. She said she is embarrassed and she can't bring herself to come to terms with how she behaved. We also spoke about the infertility thing. She said she thought her saying it out loud and discussing it with people would make it easier for her if she found out she was actually infertile, because she would have already come to terms with it. I don't get it. But hey, at least she didn't dodge accountability this time and did acknowledge that it's wrong and she needs to stop. It's slightly worrying to me how she sounds like a completely new person so often lately, almost like there are multiple versions of her who don't know each other. I said I'm glad she now realizes it's wrong, and asked her to send flowers or something with an apology note to Mary's house. I also mentioned that I offered to pay for the next baby shower and she told me to insist that she pays it all and not half. I said I'm fine with splitting it. She also said she would bake a cake and go to Mary personally to apologize. I told her Mary is leaving town for a week, so that we'll have to wait till she gets back, but she did send a lengthy text with a sincere, in my opinion, text. Mary responded saying my wife didn't need to apologize and that she understands what happened, and thanked her for attending her baby shower. Mary also apologized for leaving without saying goodbye to my wife and the rest of the guests. You see how nice Mary and Frank are. Jesus Christ. We decided on both individual and couples therapy soon. Anyone know if it's okay to do them simultaneously? She wants to, but I'm not sure it's a great idea. It was a given that we would stop trying for a baby, so that's definitely on hold for now. So yeah, that's it for now I guess. I've never been to therapy and neither has she, so I'm hoping this is the beginning of our relationship getting much healthier, and our individual growth as well. Thank you so much to everyone who responded. My mind is browned by how many of you did. Hope you all have a great year. Not an idiot. Make sure she doesn't make a big deal out of paying for the shower. I'm guessing they were declining the offer at first as they don't want her involved in both showers, but she's working her way into the second one by paying for it. I think you all need to leave Mary alone. Not an idiot. I'm glad she's owning it now, but, and this is only because I've been on Reddit too long. When you say your wife is making a cake, I got creepy vibes like she would put something in it. Not saying she would, but Reddit got me messed up. Hope that counseling works and you guys end up with your own baby. Am I an idiot for telling my fiance we should call off the wedding if she doesn't approve of my female best man? So, I, male 28, proposed to my girlfriend Jasmine, female 24, in March. Earlier this week she and I were talking about wedding plans and she already picked out who her bridesmaids were gonna be and was questioning me about my groomsmen to see who'd walk with who and all that. I told her who I wanted and let her know that my best man was actually going to be my friend Kate, 27, female. Jasmine kind of freaked out and was really adamant about her not being the best man. I asked her why and she listed off a lot of reasons, none of which I believe. She said it'll look weird in the photos. It'll be weird when Kate has to walk down the aisle with her maid of honor. That she doesn't want Kate to be distracting to guests. That Kate's too short. WTF. To stand next to a bunch of 6 feet plus guys. The reasons were ridiculous, and I told her as much. She told me I should respect her wishes for the wedding and gave me suggestions for other best men. I know the real reason might be jealousy, but I don't want to just drop it and go along with her insecurities. We ended up getting into a big argument. Jas was upset that I wasn't budging on my stance and I was mad she was acting so irrational. She was being really accusatory about why I wanted Kate in the wedding so badly. I finally told her if she doesn't want to let me have this one thing, maybe there shouldn't be a wedding at all. She got really angry and told me to just leave our apartment. I've been couch surfing at a friend's for the past couple days, not Kate. Last time I tried to talk to Jas, she asked if I was ready to apologize and I said no, cause I don't want her to think she was right about forbidding me from letting Kate be in the wedding. And before anyone asks, no, Kate and I have never been sexual or romantic. She's been one of my closest friends and introduced me to my current social circle. I used to be an awkward nerdy guy who had trouble making friends. Now I'm an awkward nerdy guy with a social life. We survived grad school together and she's been with me through high and low parts of life, and it seems insane to not include her in my wedding. Jas and Kate know each other but aren't friends, and over time has got used to me having a close female friend without being jealous, mistrusting, or so I thought. Am I an idiot? Edit. I should mention, Jasmine has never acted this way before and is usually pretty easygoing and understanding. And she didn't so much as kick me out as she said, well, maybe you should just go then, and I called her bluff and left. She tried to get me to come back, and also apologize, but we're both hard-headed when it comes to what we want. I don't want to call off the wedding and I get why Jas was upset by me saying we should. but I wanted her to know how serious I was. Edit 2. No idea if anyone will read this. I didn't want to make a whole update post since it's only been a day, but anyways. I went back home today after cooling off and Jas and I had a long talk, and I'm not going into the details. TL. Doctor, we're not calling off the wedding, but we're gonna talk about this more and try to come up with a mutual solution. No idea what that is yet. And just to address a few things I've seen a lot of. 1. No, Kate is not single. 2. Jas and Kate are friendly, but they aren't friends. I'm not very close to any of Jas's friends either. 3. Kate and I have known each other for almost 7 years. I've been with Jas for 2 years. 4. I am not attracted to Kate and we're not going to run off into the sunset together. Stop watching bad rom-coms. 5. It's 2020. I can be friends with a woman without wanting to sleep with her. 6. I'm not choosing another woman over Jas. If Kate were a man and Jas didn't want him in the wedding, I'd have a right to be pissed. But since Kate's a woman, suddenly I don't love my fiancé enough. That's bullshit. 7. Oh, and if you've implied I'm gonna have an affair, already cheated. Freak off. Update. My fiancé and I ended up making up and reconciling a few days later. We were talking about compromises and it was still a touchy subject, but I thought it was going well. And we'd recover. I wish I could leave it at that. She's now my ex-fiancé. A little over 2 weeks after our fight, a friend of Jas contacted me. She told me Jasmine had been venting to her friends over the Kate situation, and she couldn't keep quiet any longer because it wasn't fair to me. This friend sent me messages between Jasmine and her friends, where Jasmine is essentially talking about not trusting me and Kate, and saying some pretty derogatory things about her. If that was it, I'd be angry but not furious. Long story short, the conversation turns into some confusing back and forth. The friend that sent me the messages filled me in with what she knew. Basically, Jas had an affair before we got engaged. It had allegedly been just one time with some guy she doesn't talk to anymore, but I don't know what to believe. Based on the messages, it seems like that was the case. Apparently all of her friends knew about this and I was being played the whole time. I talked to Jas and she denied it, but I told her I didn't care, she needed to leave. She was throwing a fit and refused to, so I left my own home again because of her. Told her I'd tell everyone what she did if she didn't pack up her poop and go by the time I returned. It worked. 2 days later I came back and she was gone. She's tried contacting me to set things right, but I'm not interested. She can keep the ring for all I care at this point. I just don't want to see her yet. I felt so stupid and worthless and embarrassed. I didn't tell anyone the reason we broke it off. No idea what Jas is telling people, and I don't care. The past month and a half has been a nightmare, but I've been slowly recovering my pride, and I'm trying to convince myself what she did was her own fault, not mine. It works about half the time. And because I know some of you are going to ask because you think this is some shitty freaking rom-com, I didn't go running to Kate. I've hardly spoken to her or anyone else for a while now. I've been enjoying quarantine and being left alone. That's my final update on the situation. Those of you who said Jas was being paranoid because she had something to hide can go pat yourselves on the back. Not an idiot. Sorry to hear that, but honestly not surprised. Cheaters tend to judge others by their own standards, so it makes sense that she would accuse you. You are not stupid or worthless, and the embarrassment is hers, not yours. You deserve better in a relationship, and I hope you get it. Not an idiot. I've been cheated on before, walked in on it and everything, and I applaud your strength. It took me a while to realize it wasn't because something was wrong. WB, if anything, Duff, reach out to your core friends and tell them what's up. It really helps to have PPL in her corner. Like you, I didn't really tell anyone what happened except like 4-5 close friends, and that was a massive help. Also, I started therapy like 9 months after the fact, and that significantly helped. What would you do if your fiancé cheated on you? Let me know in the comments. Now, am I an idiot for threatening to ban my brother from my wedding because he plans on proposing at the reception? Hi, male 25, and I'm getting married in December. My fiancé, female 24, and I both are very excited and busy planning, and this incident is making things much more stressful. A couple weeks ago I was talking about the wedding with my brother, male 30, and he asked if it'd be okay for him to propose to his girlfriend at our wedding. I laughed and said, yeah, sure, if you want to get your ass handed to you by my fiancé. He laughed, and I figured he got the message. The other day my fiancé came to me, in tears, saying that my brother had called her and thanked her for letting him propose at the wedding. She told him that it never happened, and he wasn't allowed to do that, and he just laughed and thanked her again. I called my brother back and asked him what was going on. He's insisting that he's going to propose to his girlfriend at the wedding. He claims it's getting even for when I announced our engagement at the same family dinner. He brought his girlfriend to meet the family. I had no idea. They arrived separately and she got there after I had made the announcement. I told him if he doesn't get it through his head that he is absolutely not allowed to propose. Both him and his girlfriend won't be allowed into the wedding at all, and if he tries to pull a stunt, he'll be kicked out immediately. He didn't take it well and told the whole family. My fiancé and I have been getting calls and messages from them telling us how shitty we are for doing that. How dare I turn my back on my brother? He's also now blaming me for spoiling the proposal to his girlfriend and the family, because if I hadn't been such an ass, he wouldn't have had to break the news to the family like this. I still stand by what I did. I don't think I was out of line at all, but my fiancé thinks we should have just let him propose to avoid conflict. I know it means a lot to her that everyone gets along and that there's no hard feelings, especially since she's feeling stressed as is, but I don't want to give in to my brother. Am I an idiot? Edit. Thanks for all the responses. I didn't expect this to get this many comments. To address something. While I understand the intent behind the suggestions, my fiancé and I will not be telling my brother that we'll announce a pregnancy at his wedding in retaliation. We are unable to conceive and this is a sore subject to us. Update. As I mentioned a couple times in the comments of my original post, my fiancé and I wrote up a Facebook post to explain the situation to our families, mostly mine, including screenshots of texts with my brother. I decided I didn't want to link the post here as it feels a little too personal to be slapping on Reddit. Sorry, as expected. Once the family heard our side of the story and put everything together, many of them changed their tune. Most of the family members who had been calling me an idiot ended up apologizing and siding with me and my fiancé. My brother was livid. He called me about an hour after the post went up and demanded that I take it down because it made him look bad. He said he was being unfairly attacked, and even blamed me for his girlfriend breaking up with him. My brother has formally been banned from the entire wedding, and we've asked any family members who continue to side with him to RSVP that they will not be attending. Our parents aren't happy with the turnout, and my mother has decided she won't be attending my wedding because of how I'm alienating my brother during an important event. I don't mind. I've never been very close with her, and while it is a bit sad that she's choosing my hard-headed brother over my wedding, I still have my father's full support. My brother's, now ex-girlfriend, is still invited and got promoted to bridesmaid because of how helpful and supportive she's been to my fiancé. Hopefully this is the last issue we'll run into during wedding planning. Not an idiot. I love a bit of karma. He was a jerk and now he has no wedding to attend to and no girlfriend to propose to, and to top it off the girlfriend is now a bridesmaid. If that isn't satisfaction from karma, then I don't know what is. If that was me, I'd end up walking around with the smuggest of smiles on my face for a very long time. I'm sorry, I'm just pretty like that. Not an idiot. Wow, I mean, the silver lining is that you now have less food, chairs, etc. to prepare. Right. I love the fact that my ex-GF is now the bridesmaid. Could be the start of a great friendship, or at least it sounds like it, lol. Opus, I wish you and your future wife health and good fortune, and most importantly happiness. Do you think it's weird to propose at a wedding? Let me know in the comments. Now, am I an idiot for possibly making my parents homeless? This isn't just me, it includes my twin brother. My brother and I, male 17, had an accidental pregnancy. For context, our oldest sibling is 37 and has a kid who goes to our high school. Our nearest sibling is 28. My parents always made it clear that we weren't supposed to exist. They were never abusive or neglectful or anything, but they were kind of cold our whole childhood. My brother and I will graduate high school in about a week, and we'll be 18 in 2 weeks. My parents have told us that as soon as we turn 18, we will have to pay rent. Neither of us have jobs, and we probably won't be able to get jobs right now. I confided in my sister that I'm really stressed about this, and she offered to let my brother and I stay with her while we're in university, completely free of charge. I'm really grateful for this, and we're planning on accepting her offer. I told my parents about this, and they freaked out. I guess my mom was planning to move to part-time work and they needed rent from my brother and I to keep up with rent. They said that they have provided for us our whole lives, and we should pay them back now that we're almost adults. I mean, it's true. They have given us everything we needed for 18 years, and I really don't want them to be homeless if they can't afford the rent. But I don't know how I would even afford to live with them. Am I an idiot? Edit, my brother and I both have some savings, so we could conceivably pay rent for a few months. I also feel guilty moving in with my sister, because she has 3 little kids and a cat to take care of, and I don't want to put any extra strain on her. None of my siblings have a great relationship with our parents, so my parents won't ask them for help. Edit number 2, I'm actually shocked by the support here. I've been talking it over with my brother, and we're going to move out as soon as we legally can. Thanks guys. Also, I don't know how to add a photo, so for all of you asking for a cat tax, I'm just going to tag my sister somewhere in the comments and you can go look at Eris on her profile. Hey folks, it's been like 3 weeks and many things have happened. I graduated high school, go me. I turned 18, and I moved out. I finally feel like I'm adulting, kind of. I moved in with my sister the day after my birthday, and I've been living with her for a bit over 2 weeks. It's been really weird. They do all of this stuff in her house that we never did as kids. Family dinners every night. Never done it once until now. My sister and her fiancé carve out blocks of time to spend with the kids. My parents never did that. My oldest nephew, he's 10, dropped an open can of pineapple in the kitchen a few days ago. I expected him to get yelled at, but my sister just helped him clean it up and told him to grab a new can from the pantry. That was weird. My parents were never that chill. When I was a kid, I would see these perfect families on TV. Shout out to Dinosaur Train Elmo. And my parents always told me that those kinds of parents didn't exist. That it was all made up for TV. That real parents don't take that much of an interest in their kids' lives and interests. I believed them until now. In the past few weeks, I've seen my sister and her fiancé spend hours making model plans with my oldest nephew, or rocking the youngest to sleep when she was overtired. That stuff never happened when I was a kid. My niece, she's 4, woke up in the middle of the night last week, crying about something. Instead of telling her to STFU and go to bed, my sister's fiance got up and sat with her until she fell asleep. I guess I was just surprised that my experiences aren't the norm. Anyway, both my brother and I are doing really well here. My brother has been cooking a lot, he's going to culinary school, and everyone seems to really appreciate it. I've been spending time with my nieces and nephew, and I have played more Minecraft these past 2 weeks than I think I've played in my entire life. If anyone knows what Titanfall 2 is, please help me out. I've been an adult for less than a month, and these children and their newfangled video games already confuse me. This is all just a very long-winded way to say thanks. If I hadn't posted here, I don't think I would have moved out. My savings would basically be drained, and I wouldn't be as happy as I am now. So thank you. Now I guess it's time to see if I can figure out how to do an update post. Edit. Shout out to my sister for basically raising me for 12 years and also being an amazing parent. I could just go and say all this to her face, but there's so many stairs in this house and I'm lazy. Kalani, how many times am I going to have to say it before you accept that you're a good person? Every time I go to thank you for giving up space in your house for me and Kim, you say that if you didn't help us out, it would have been someone else. I get that you have strangely low self-esteem, as evidenced by your Am I the Idiot post, but can you just accept that you're an unbelievably good person and move on so I can finally thank you? Not an idiot. So you can't come downstairs to compliment me, but you can come downstairs to tell me to go upstairs to get my phone and then come back downstairs so you can see my reaction to you complimenting me. I see how it is. Honestly, I'm just happy you're here. I told you before, me and Michael and Daniel have been waiting so long to move you guys out of that house. I'm just the one who has the available rooms. If Michael wasn't overseas, it would have been him. If Daniel had another room, it would have been him. But anyway, I love you both. It's been really nice to have some extra hands around the house, especially with Cam and his cooking. I see why he's going to culinary school. The kids love you. Ethan thinks you guys are great. Even Eris likes you, and that's pretty darn rare. Keep being the person you are, and I think this arrangement is going to work out fantastic.